Hello students, welcome to my YouTube channel Political Science. Today we are going to discuss about the liberal approach to political theory. Among the various political theories or ideologies, liberalism or the liberal approach to political theory is one of the earliest. It is important to understand that there are various approaches regarding political theories, and within that, what basically is the premise upon which political theory stands. Liberalism comes up as one of the most relevant in understanding the nature of political theory. In this model, we are going to understand what is liberalism and how does liberal approach helps to make a certain kind of statement regarding the political theory. When we look at liberalism, we will try to understand within this video that what is the basic or the core features of liberalism and how various modern scholarship has evolved liberalism to grow as one of the basic approaches of political theory. To begin with, we have to first understand what is a political theory. Political theory involves a system of interpretation of political concepts, a system of understanding the basic human relationship within the context of power. It involves systems of interpretation of political concepts, a system of political conception. Thus, it also involves ideas, assumptions, and statements regarding the political capabilities of human being within the society and state. In this process, political theory also tries to link concepts, for example, liberty and equality, in ways not hitherto thought of. Gauss maintained that for the past 2 centuries there are three political theories which has already endured all the storms. One is liberalism, two socialism, three conservatism. It is because each of these do not have a monolithic structure and each one of them have a considerable diversified approach. Thus, he maintains that there are certain features in which all of them do have a set of foundations that distinguish them from one another. There are certain features that define each of them distinctively. He identifies with all strands of liberalism as a commitment to liberty, and thus he entails the debates about the nature of individual liberty. On the other hand, John Gray identifies the modern perception of man, that is, the individual and society, as the distinctive feature of liberalism. However, this is common to all strands of liberalism. However, Gray argues the moral primacy of the individual against any claims of social collectivity makes liberalism an individualist philosophy. Equal moral worth of all individuals is liberalism's claim to egalitarianism. The moral unity of human species and the secondary importance of cultural and historic forms makes it a universalist theory. While the liberal belief in the improvability of institutions and social arrangements makes meliorism a core feature of the liberal tradition. Though Gray attributes the liberal political tradition to the 17th century, Hobbes and Spinoza, but the crystallization of liberalism is attributed to the second treatise of government by John Locke. The three basic Lockean tradition can be attributed to the freedom of association, private property, and limited government. But there are different perceptions regarding political theory. But Gray also argued that despite of this Lockean tradition, liberalism is also premised on certain foundations. Liberals or liberalism emerged in different geographies as a response to specific historical backgrounds. Liberals do not speak for any particular interest, group, or section of peoples. Liberals articulated their demands not as demands of a section of people or group, but as demands of the humanity itself. Second, liberalism presupposes that every human being is a rational agent, autonomous and capable of choosing their own moral values and design of society, thus demonstrating its origins to Enlightenment philosophy. Hence, rationality, autonomy, choice are the three basic liberal political theory approaches, which is nonetheless a non teleological approach to the study of political theory. That is, unlike Greek political theory that envisaged eudaimonia or good life and happiness, along with deeply ethical overtones. A liberal approach does not pursue the idea of a telos or a final end. The idea of a good life and society is a matter of individual choice in liberal approach. This also expresses the liberal commitment only to a thin conception of common good as opposed to a thick common good of communitarians. For example, the social contract in liberal traditions itself is based on individuals willingly entering into a contract that creates society and state. The creation of the state and civil society is based on individuals' rational choice as per this idea. Even when liberals use utilitarian logic to justify welfarism, they are today more compelled to reconcile the deontic and the utilitarian logics. Gray argues that the welfare logic basically makes a case for making available certain resources, power, or capabilities so that individuals can exercise their autonomy and achieve self realization, indicating the centrality of individualism once again. The best example can be given from John Rawls' A Theory of Justice, where he focuses on the deontological individuals entering into social contract from behind the veil of ignorance to create a society that is based on justice and welfare of all. The principles of justice are chosen by individuals detached from their social and cultural identities. They are not prior to the individual. For many other philosophers and thinkers, liberalism is an ideology of capitalism. It is basically the private property which defines the feature of liberalism. It ranging from Locke to Hayek, Nozick, Friedman, and Buchanan. In fact, Hayek and Nozick also said that intervention into private property, including taxation, as a violation of freedom and individualism, thus making the core of all versions of liberalism to be of individualism. In fact, Vincent argues that liberals are formally committed to individualism. It is the ontological core of liberalism. Thus, making crucial feature of individualism in liberal approach is that the individual is a priori, that is, the individual is prior to society, naturally or morally, varying from thinker to thinker. However, liberal individualism is a diverse and a complex philosophy. In fact, John Dewey has identified old liberalism as an abstract individualism and new liberalism as a socially rooted individual optimization of the society. T.H. Green's idea that a society can be a means for individual self realization represents new liberalism. The organized effort of society is vital for the individual to attain self direction. Hayek, in his idea of market liberalism, puts forth the case that abstract individualism is not a reality. In fact, he draws a distinction between rationalistic individualism, that is of Mill, and true individualism, which caters to a market society. He subscribes to the latter notion of individualism. At another level, it also has witnessed possessive individualism that espouses the idea that an individual owns her or his body, desires, and interests, that is, of the self ownership thesis that is dominant within Hayek's notion of liberalism. In possessive individualism, property is central, for it becomes an extension of bodily right. Next, the core value in liberalism is that of liberty. Michael Friden espoused that liberty is a fundamental idea in all liberals. There is no unified position on liberty in liberal scholarship. The commitment to liberty also defines the scope of state action. Liberals favor a limited state where individuals are protected against the arbitrariness of state by virtue of their status as rights bearing individuals. However, liberalism is divided on the nature of the state, most commonly represented as classical liberal or laissez faire state, welfare state, and neoliberal state. A common distinction that one sees in liberty is that of a negative liberty and positive liberty, where negative liberty connotes liberty as a mere absence of restraints or coercion, whereas in positive liberty it denotes conditions and the ability to exercise liberty. Isaiah Berlin and Hayek contend that reasons like poverty and unemployment cannot be treated as restraints or coercion. On the contrary, Green, Lasky, and more recently Taylor has asked for that freedom is a positive thing, that is, a power to do something. Liberalism is also committed to the language of rights and democracy. While the Lockean tradition makes a case for natural rights that became the forerunner of human rights in the 20th century, the utilitarian logic emphasizes the legal basis of every right. Liberalism is also tied to the value of democracy, though in the recent past, the new versions of democracy, like strong democracy, unitary democracy, deliberative democracy, have been formulated to effectively respect the liberal underpinnings of democracy. In a nutshell, liberalism as an approach to political theory has been focused on the four aspects, that is, liberty, rights, moral equality, conditions of individual. That is, it is chosen by the individual rather than preordained by society or state. This also explains the liberal alliance with democracy and a freely operating market. Individual rather than social collectivity becomes the fulcrum of analysis in liberalism. For example, liberal approach will denounce any arrangement or policy that takes away individual choice and autonomy, even if it leads to collective good. The debates between liberalism and communitarism are examples.